which people are now reading. They're reading all over the world. Novels and movies, but this is Ribera's theology. You can trace it right back there. Now, there is something else that has happened recently. I mentioned this, I believe it was our last program or 2 programs ago. This is amazing to discover, but there has been a reaction, there is a reaction now against Left Behind theology. Just like there was a reaction against the Roman Church in the Protestant Reformation, and there was a reaction against the Protestant Reformation in the Counter-Reformation, and now there's a reaction against Left Behind theology that is growing within the Christian church right now. I showed you this article in one of our previous programs. This issue of Time magazine, this is today's issue, November 22nd, 2004. On page 4, it says here on the introduction that there is a brand new series challenging Left Behind. This is news, today's issue of Time. And when you read it, there's the article up there. It shows Tim LaHaye there. This is on page 24. And it says, "Is it the end of the world as this author knows it?" And it mentions Tyndale publishing a rival series challenging the premise that born-again Christians will be raptured into heaven while those left behind face the Antichrist during the apocalypse. And then it mentions the book called The Last Disciple by Hank Hanegraaff. And it argues that the book of Revelation describes the persecution of first-century Christians under Nero, not some future tribulation of non-believers. I've got a copy here of that book. And there it is, right here. You can see it on the screen. Here's The Last Disciple. This just came out a couple of months ago. They've sold 50,000 copies in only 6 weeks, whereas Left Behind, the first book, sold, I think it was 85,000 copies in a year. So this book is not only rivaling, but it's outselling Left Behind. And I've read this cover to cover. Hank Hanegraaff and Sigmund Bauer. Now, what does this book teach about the Antichrist? This book teaches, and there's the quote on the screen, and I've read this. This is a scene from where there's a group of Christians that are in prison in some little hut. They're chained to the wall, and Nero walks in, the Emperor Nero, and he has a servant with him, and this servant is threatening the Christians, and he tells them to bow down and to worship the beast. And that's a quote right there from The Last Disciple, page 5. "The Emperor Nero wishes for you to bow down and worship the beast." The theology of this book is that the beast and the little horn and the Antichrist, it's not in the future. When is it? It's in the past. It was here a long, long time ago, 2,000 years ago. And this book says that the beast was Nero. And that view, we've looked at futurism, we've looked at historicism. That view technically is called preterism. And preterism, coming from the prefix pre, meaning it happened in the past. So you've got preterism in the past, you've got futurism in the future. Now, where did preterism come from? Where did this view come from that is reflected in the book The Last Disciple? Well, let me show you a quote here on the screen, and this is also in the book Time Delusions. From G.S. Hitchcock, in his book The Beast and the Little Horn, page 7. He said, quote, "The futurist school founded by the Jesuit Ribera in 1591 looks for an Antichrist, Babylon, and a rebuilt temple in Jerusalem at the end of the Christian dispensation." That's futurism. That's Left Behind. And then it says the preterist school, founded by the Jesuit Alcazar in 614, explains the revelation by the fall of Jerusalem or by the fall of pagan Rome in 410 AD. When the Counter-Reformation commissioned the Jesuits to fight the Reformation, 2 different Jesuits went in 2 different directions. Ribera said it's all in the future, one man at the end. And then Alcazar, another Jesuit, said it's all in the past and the Antichrist is Nero. All in the past or all in the future. Those were the 2 views that came from Jesuit scholars in the Counter-Reformation, trying to take the eyes of men and women off of the Roman Church. And what's happening right now, it's so phenomenal, in the battle of the books between Left Behind and The Last Disciple, is we're seeing a battle between futurism and preterism. And both of those views, you can trace them as theories to counter the Reformation. They are anti-Protestant counter theories to take the eyes of people off of the Roman Church. The same issue of Newsweek that talks about Left Behind and how phenomenally successful it is, I've got it right here, says on page 52, and I was just amazed to read that, I was so shocked. May 24, 2004, page 52, it brings out the truth right there. And this is for the whole world to see. This was this year. And it says here, quote, Martin Luther, the reformer, identified the Antichrist as the institution of the papacy. And that's right there in Newsweek. Isn't that shocking? And so really what's happening here is that now what's happening is there's a battle going on, and the battle's been going on throughout history. It started in the early church, it's going on right now, and it's going to go on till the end of time. And in the prophecy arena, there are three views now. There's the futurist view that's promoted by Left Behind. There's the preterist view that says it's all in the past. And then there's the historicist view of Luther and Calvin and Huss and Jerome and Wesley and Spurgeon and all the great Protestant reformers, many of them who are willing to die for their faith, saying that Antichrist is not behind us, it's not ahead of us. When is it? It's now. And it's a lot easier to write a book about a fictitious Antichrist in the future and a fictitious Antichrist in the past than it is to write a book about an Antichrist that is here today. Much easier. And I believe this is why these books are so popular. It's because they're describing things that don't relate to right now. Don't relate to right now. And we have to choose. We have to make a choice between which one. It is a fact of history that the Protestant Reformation has been derailed. You can see this slide there, a plane called Protestant Airways. Protestant Airways changing course, and that's what Left Behind does. It goes this way. That's what the Last Disciple, preterism, does. It goes that way. And they both have turned away from God's truth found in the book of Daniel and Revelation of Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, 10 horns, little horn, with eyes like a man, a mouth speaking great things, making war on the saints. And what the book of Revelation says is that it'll be a major player in Earth's final days. Earth's final days. And I see prophecy being fulfilled right in front of my eyes. I'm a Protestant. I believe in the Bible. I believe in Jesus. I believe in studying history. And I believe in putting all these pieces together. And I hope that this battle going on right now in the Christian world between futurism and preterism will open people's eyes to realize they need to study more deeply for themselves. And they'll do this and study the Bible, and they'll learn the truth. And I hope that the book Time Delusions, which is right now in bookstores across the country, it's in its third print run right now because people are reading it, their eyes are being opened, and they're realizing what the Bible actually says and what the Protestant reformers believed, that ultimately, above everything else, points to Jesus Christ, to his righteousness, to his truth, not just in his life, but in his prophecies. In his prophecies. That's what it's all about. The bottom line goal of the Reformation is to turn the eyes of people away from man to God, to Jesus Christ himself, and to the Bible, away from the traditions and the doctrines and the opinions of men. We must never forget that when Jesus Christ came into this world as the truth, what happened to the truth 2,000 years ago? The truth was crucified. And he was crucified by religious people. Religious people. And may God help us not to follow the example of those that crucified Christ, but let's accept him, receive him, and accept his word and his truth and his prophecies so that we can understand what's going on around us, we can discern, and we can sense that God is preparing us for the final days, for the final crisis, so we can be ready for the second coming and for the end of the world.